First order of business, approval of minutes. I have a motion to that effect.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I've read the minutes and found them to be in order, so I will make a motion to approve.
I have a second. Got a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Caller ID blocked. Please block your number.
All those in favor? All right. Commissioner Cook you will hear her voice, but you will not see her. So don't get excited or whatever, but that's what we got going on tonight. Second order of business, courthouse renovations. Mr. Chairman.
Ben, come on up to the well.
I think it'll be about 6 feet away.
How y'all doing? The project, the courthouse project's about 90% complete. The interior, it doesn't look like it from outside after they started tearing up all that concrete, but the interior project is it's 100% complete except for the change orders that we've added to the project. We're in the process of scheduling a punch list with the contractor and the architect, and the contractor is going to have to revise the wallpaper in 205. We found some problems with that. The contract date was extended by 28 days due to adding the replacement of the concrete outside on the inner loop, and the new contract due to that change will be March 14th, 2020. He's currently behind schedule due to some weather, and he's not able to complete the scope of the work that we've added to the project. Because of that, the contractor has not submitted any days for weather at this time, but that's why we think that he's running behind. We were rebuilding the columns on the corner, and they ran into some problems with the parapet wall. The integrity of the parapet wall has got some problems due to some water infiltration, and the architect's working with a roofing consultant to come up with a revised detail on how to correct the issue. That probably will change the time that's left on the project. Maybe by 4 weeks or better to fix the parapet wall going around the top of the building. The architects sent them a request for proposal, but we haven't got that back yet. We added a few additional roof repairs, and they appear to be successful for trying to temporarily make this roof go on. And so we're seeking quotes for the handicap entry. We're seeking some quotes for an automatic operator for the door. That's about all that we've got that's new for the courthouse repair.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, you're satisfied with the quality thus far, and the extension of time is justified in your opinion?
The extension is justified, and when we've had enough rain we certainly can't blame them for that. The quality of work, we'll give them, the few little details that we have noticed, we'll give them the opportunity to correct that, and I think they will. I feel comfortable with it.
Any more questions? Okay, next on the agenda, Old Judicial Building and Archives.
The Old Judicial Building and Archives project, the contractor has signed, the contract has been signed with Cadell Construction, and we've got a pre-bid meeting and a walkthrough with the potential subcontractors that's tentatively scheduled for April the 8th, and we'll walk through it could be the same contractors in both buildings, or the same subcontractors in both buildings, but we're going to do that on April the 8th, and then the subcontractors will submit their bids to Cadell by the 21st of April, and they will be opened by the PBA, or at the PBA on April 23rd. And so that's where we're at on that.
Next on, any questions? Okay, next on the agenda, Judicial Center.
Center, I'm assuming we're talking about the windows. We've got another window on the second, or the second window has been broken on the 6th floor, and we've attempted to maintain multiple quotes, and one group declined a quote, the other one hasn't completed a quote since the last meeting. We've only got one valid quote. Basically it's due to the rigging, and that's needed to stage that from the roof. But based on credible information from Bell Construction and Jerry Preston, we believe we've got some material defects versus, I think they originally pointed out that the window had been hit by something, but we're going to dispute that and try to get the contractor to cover that, or that's our angle, or at least 2 of the 3 windows that are broken right now.
These 2 windows that are broken, basically on the 6th floor. There's no other floors.
That's correct. There's one on the first, and we know
Well,
that
the wind got that door and broke that one, but the 2 on the 6th floor could be questionable because there's none other on any other floors. So,
we're thinking it may be stress or some kind of a defect. So we're going to try to argue that fact with the installer and see if we can't get that paid for.
any questions on the Judicial Center? Commissioner?
When you say broke, are you talking about a crack or busted out or the seals or?
It's tempered glass, just like when it breaks, it just shatters into little pieces, but they're still intact. The windows are still up, and it's a double pane window. The exterior pane is still intact. The inside glass is shattered. It's completely shattered, but it hasn't fallen out. So.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, next is community care.
On the community care renovations, the corrected specification that we talked about last time that went to the state health department to be approved, that's still pending. We haven't gotten anything back from the state yet, but even with the approval, the community care is still under quarantine due to the COVID-19, and the roof replacement repair that we've done has been completed. There was a small punch list that I didn't talk to anybody today, but I would say that punch list has probably been completed. So, and they're leak-free at this point. So.
Next on the agenda, Paul's Roof.
The Paul's Roof, the material specs have been reviewed by Richard Rinks, the group that reviews most of our roofs or specs most of our roofs, and they've been approved, and material delivery is expected on April the 3rd, and a pre-construction meeting will be held at that time, and roof demo is set to begin by April the 7th, Tuesday, April 7th.
Questions on the roof? Okay, we got another roof. Was it Paul's Roof? Paul's Roof.
That was the roof that I was
Okay, what
discussing.
about community care? Did they have roof work done?
Yes, sir, we did. That's been completed.
Okay.
And there was 2 or 3 little small items, and they've been corrected. Probably have been corrected by
Okay.
the time. They were pretty small.
Next on the agenda, one-stop building.
I'll take that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ben. I'll take the next 2, Mr. Chairman, to complete that list. The one-stop building that we're looking at, of course, I went down to Cordell Hall building. Deputy Mayor Sandlin and I, we met with Senator Reeves 3 weeks ago, I believe. Had the guy that's over building for the Department of Safety, and he was in the room. Secretary Reeves stressed upon him that this was the #1 priority in his office, and wanted to make sure that we got this thing going. And then the coronavirus hit, and basically all state employees have been sent home and working from home. So I would say that whenever this passes, and it will, then we'll make sure that we bring it back up and go from there. But the General Assembly did adjourn last week. They went home and won't come back until June, and it could be that late of a delay on that building until we get some kind of word. But we're still closer than what we were this time last year, right? So that's where we are on that.
One good thing, he said that's one of his top priorities.
Said it was his #1 priority in his office.
Questions? Okay, next on the agenda, bank coin building sale.
Yes, sir. Well, there again, the COVID-19 pandemic, because of the stock market, because of the ever fluid changing life that we have right now, I don't think it's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, we wait until everything seems to pass. I'm not sure that we would get anybody to even come and bid on the bank building at this point, because people don't know how much money they've lost on the stock market or how much money they have to invest. I think we would be wise to wait and bring this up at a later time, and when we felt comfortable, we'll bring it back up and ask for permission at that time to auction it off. Mr. Sandlin.
There we go. Mr. Chairman, Mayor, County Commissioners, we've got the packet ready to go for the sale. We were going to do a May 28th, Thursday. It'd be the day of the property management meeting. And then we were going to have a week open, the last week of April, to review the building. And for people to come in, schedule the whole week, would have somebody there open, tour them through the building, explain the building, give them the packet of information as well, and do all that. And like the mayor said, the coronavirus situation happened, and we're ready to go, but I do think it's the proper move to hold off until things are looking more on the up and up. And but just wanted to give that information to you that we're ready.
Any questions, Commissioner?
I agree with holding up on it, and I thought then, therefore, I would table this next item. I did not know we had made a decision on how to dispense with that building. I thought our last property management, we had not committed to an auction. Did I not recall that correctly?
I believe, Commissioner, we did.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
Based on the county attorney approval, that we could do that.
And was disseminated?
Right. Am I correct? Didn't the county attorney look it over?
What's in the minutes? Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, that came out of the committee 5-2, I believe.
Okay, it's in the minutes. Okay, any other question on the bank and coin building sale? There's only one thing I'd like to bring up. If between the time we decide to sell it or whatever, if somebody wants to come in to your office to look at it, I think we should
Oh, yeah.
let them look at it.
We always call Ben, and Ben has himself or Rob or somebody who will meet him over there with the key and let them look at it. Absolutely, we'll do that.
Okay, next on the agenda, CUD easement for Christiana School property.
I guess Mr. Lee, Mr. Trey Lee, I think at the last meeting, Commissioner Dodd, you had requested that somebody come and just give us an explanation of that. I did receive a phone call from our Highway Department Director or Superintendent, Greg Brooks. I got a phone call from Bill Dunnell at CUD, and they were both said that it's never come through the commission. It was just that you all approved it at the school board previously and sent it to me for signature. Am I correct, Mr. Lee?
Yes, that's the way
Okay.
it's typically been done in the past.
Okay, well, during my tenure, that hasn't occurred, so, you know, it's new coming
And that's fine.
across my desk. So if you'll just explain it, I think, to some of the
Be glad
members, they
to.
just had questions about that.
No, sir. I have a copy of the utility easement with me tonight. It's a standard CUD water line easement. It's been reviewed by Mr. Reed. There is something that, has anybody read the easement?
Yes, sir, and the only question I had was it was a 57.5
I
foot.
knew that was coming.
And so if you've reviewed it and you on behalf of the school board have approved it, that's the comfort level I needed. We got it cold last month, and
And
that's
I
bigger
did-
than usual.
And I apologize for that. I didn't know, or I would have been here. So just 2 seconds, and I'll put everybody's mind at ease. In the back also with CUD's Alan Strimke. He's their engineer that we typically deal with over there. The short version is this. When the highway department's widening Sledge Road, they're making some adjustments to that road, and it's raising the elevations. And to do that, it creates on our side of the road a pretty steep slope. So they like to be out of our county right-of-way. And Director Brooks, because of that slope, asked us for additional easement, which we gave to them. And that pushes CUD outside of their easement even further. So typically, it would be probably a 30 to 40 foot, and this is 57, and it's because of the topography out there and the slope. And I have concurred with Mr. Brooks. We've all, I don't know how many meetings we've had over at CUD. We started out bi-weekly, and now we're down to monthly, but there's been a lot of coordination on this, and we're very comfortable with this. And there again, I apologize. I didn't know I needed to be here. I'd have been here last month.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, next on the agenda, City of Laverne property request. You want to bring it up or you want?
Yes, sir, I can bring it up. There is this is a request from Mayor Cole. Sent the letter to me and asking for permission from the county commission. We have a piece of property. It was more than a remnant. It's basically a 1.5 acres. You know, last month or month before, we dealt with some remnant parcels down in Smyrna. This parcel is a pretty good sized tract for 1.5 acres. If you turn right at the grocery store in Laverne and head out, Commissioner, what road is that? It's at the roundabout.
Roundabout at Stones River Road.
Stones River Road. So it's headed out towards the lake. So,
Look, we're trying to tell us.
okay. Sorry, Commissioner. We hear you now. So we own that parcel, and the mayor was asking if we would mind donating that. It's where Laverne Middle School and Laverne Lake Elementary School are located. You should have a map on your tablet showing where that's located. And they have bought some property just north of the property where they plan to build a public works facility to better serve the residents in Laverne. So by us donating this parcel, it will give the city more road frontage for future development of that area. and that says the city will be willing to pay for the surveys, the appraisals, and/or legal fees necessary for the transaction. I think in talking with Commissioner Gammon just prior to the meeting tonight, that he had talked to the mayor right before he came in, and as long as the caveat is in the agreement to donate the property, as long as it always continues to be property used for the purpose of government use and not rezoned and sold and et cetera, that caveat would be in there, then I have no problem. And Commissioner, any comments?
Comments, Commissioner Gannon, would you like to?
Yeah, I talked with Jason Cole, as you said, before I came in, and I asked him if they would agree to do that, and they would. I'd like for that to show in our record that would come back to us if they did not use it for government use with the city of Laverne.
I have a motion to that effect.
I so move.
Second?
Can I second it?
Commissioner Cook said. Yeah, well, let Commissioner Cook have it. Any discussion?
We miss you, Commissioner Cook.
Thank you.
Any discussion? I think it's an excellent idea myself, so if not in discussion, I think we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd? Commissioner Gammon? Commissioner Gooch? Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
And Chairman McAdoo.
Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, next on the agenda is a facilities use form. You know, we tabled it last month, so it's back with us this month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm just looking for direction as I asked you to take it under consideration last month, come back and have looked over the form. I'm looking for direction of how to handle the ever increasing number of requests for use of our facility. And once we get it fixed up and real pretty, we're going to have a whole lot more, you know, from weddings to festivals to our farmers market, et cetera. So we just wanted to put in front of you, and I think we shared with you last month what the city actually does and how they charge for their plaza, what their fees are to charge for the plaza. You know, if you want to go through what's on your tablet in front of you, Sonia's been helping us on this, and so is Deputy to the Mayor, has been working on something to where these people, when they come into the mayor's office and want to reserve it for some special event, be it Earth Day, be it Jazz Fest, be it whatever, we wanted to make sure. And if you recall, one of the reasons that we chose to do a change order on the historic courthouse was to make it a little bit easier to accommodate like Jazz Fest or the farmers market, those groups from Main Street, et cetera, because we have 2 restrooms on the south wing underneath the steps out here that would allow us to leave the exterior doors of the south entrance of the courthouse where people could actually come in and use our restroom facilities. And we can then lock, since we're going to do the museum downstairs, we could actually lock those 2 interior doors that would not let people come and roam through the rest of the historic courthouse, especially since we'll have some artifacts on loan from the State Museum. So that was the purpose of the change order and putting the ramp in, and because it had to be from an ADA perspective, ADA accessible for a wheelchair, because otherwise they'd have to come into the east entrance right behind us here, and then that would mean that the whole courthouse was open in order to use those restrooms. So that was the purpose of the ramp, and I think they've got, you can go out there and see it tonight, they've got the slant, so it's getting much closer. It's going to look nice. questions on the form? If you'll go to,
Oh, hey, you got a question on the form?
Sonia.
I was just going to make some comments, and maybe Mayor Ketchum was about to say some of the things that we realized today. We had put this together and reviewed it like multiple times, and every time you read it again, you see something else, like a I not dotted or a T not crossed. So we went back through it again today, and there was a couple of more cleanup items that we suggest. The county attorney has gone over this and gave us his feedback, and we've made those changes. But if you don't mind, on the user rules form, that I'm not sure which is loaded on your iPad first, but the one that is labeled the courthouse grounds information and user rules, there are a couple of things that we need your guidance on. One of them is in the second paragraph. We had put in that the county courthouse grounds may be used by citizens of Rutherford County at the discretion and approval by the mayor. The county attorney suggested that maybe we would not want to make this just apply to Rutherford County citizens. So we're not sure, I guess in his thoughts, if Cannon County wanted to use our grounds for an event, that maybe they could. And so he suggested that we discuss that, whether we wanted it to be reserved for the citizens of the county only, or if we wanted to open it up to other counties, other states, or whomever. So that was one of the items that we needed some guidance. What was, the body's wish on keeping it in county or opening it up to other users as well? It's on, if you look at the information and user rules, it's the second paragraph and second paragraph, last sentence. It says, however, the county courthouse grounds may be used by others, and then he put in parentheses users. Originally, we had may be used by citizens of Rutherford County or other local governments. And so I guess if there was a federal group that wanted to come to town and use our facilities, or a state group wanted to use the facilities, I'm not sure. We had put in their governmental bodies or citizens, or so I think we kind of need some guidance on what you guys think is best.
So the phrase, I'm sorry, I recognized you, not the chairman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The word users is too broad, or doesn't that cover it?
No, he's saying users would broaden it. We had narrowed the scope of it to say citizens, and we had narrowed the scope to say local governmental entities or residents of Rutherford County, and he broadened it to say users so that anybody could use it. So what we needed to know is, do you want anybody to be able to use it, or do you want it to be left exclusively for the use of governmental entities of the county and residents of the county?
My comment on that is that I would want to broaden it from, in case a state historical group may tour old courthouses and have an event, or so. This is in my district, and I'm a frequent attendee down here if there's various things, and so I would certainly want it broader rather than more restrictive in this particular component. So I, for one, am comfortable with this users at the mayor's discretion.
Okay, so are you saying, okay, users, okay, leave it. Okay.
I'm okay with that, but like you said, that as long as with the mayor's discretion, because there may be some group that I don't feel, nor the county commission would be proud of to use it, and just let me make that call at that time based on whoever that group might be. But that way it doesn't limit, the Tennessee Historical Group or the Historical Commission or
the DAR may want to come
DAR, and they could be addressed in Hermitage, Tennessee. I agree. I'm with you.
Okay. Dan?
I don't see any problem with it as long as it's at your discretion whether or not you can approve it or disapprove it.
Sure.
So you're the keeper of the key.
I won't do anything that'll embarrass you. Promise that.
If you turn to the next page, also, it's 6. The seventh bullet point says sanitary facilities and solid waste receptacles. We had added that in only for larger scale events, so we should have added in sanitary facilities because the bathrooms will be open. That's part of the reason, that's, one of the reasons that we're doing the agreement. But if it's a larger scale event, say like Jazz Fest or something where there's a big crowd that our bathrooms would, 2 little stalls or 3 little stalls wouldn't be enough to handle 400 or 500 people. So we meant to put in there sanitary facilities and solid waste receptacles must be supplied by the requesting organization for all day or multiple day events. So, because Jazz Fest starts on a Friday evening, goes all day Saturday and Sunday, that way that they would have enough facilities for the participants that come. So we needed to change that to add in that additional phrase for that sentence, because I don't think our bathrooms would be enough to take care of that big of a crowd.
Is it a matter of time versus population of the group? It could be a half a day group, but a big population, you'd still want an extra facility. So should we change that phrase at all?
Well, we thought about that, but I don't think when somebody has an event, they really know. I mean, we might have one event and 50 people show up and we think that there's going to be 200 and then have another event we think is going to be small. We couldn't really tell. I guess we could put the language in there for when we say larger scale, because I think we put in there larger scale events, that maybe we put anticipated crowds of 200 or more or something like that, if that's what you would want us to do.
Like we had an event this last year, and they brought their own porta-johns, and I mean, it was, 50 of them or so, to take on their size of their event. They knew, there were going to be 2,000 or 3,000 people here, and so they knew that coming in, making the application, and they started bringing them in, that Friday afternoon, and was ready for the event. I think it was a Saturday event then or something. So.
Yeah. The church out on Highway 99. The Old Salem.
Old Salem Community.
Experience Community Church. They had 2,000 or 3,000 people up here that night, and they brought in their own porta potties, winding around the square. I think they bring in their own facilities, etc. We'll ask those questions when they come in, and they have to fill out that application that anticipated how many people do you think that you will have, and there's weather relations and et cetera, but I'm okay with that.
But regardless, they're responsible for trash.
For their trash, yes.
I mean, we'll have the trash cans that are already out on the grounds, but it may not be enough to manage the amount of trash that they would bring in.
Well, say, for example, so is Farmers Market considered a half-a-day event or an all-day event?
It's half-day. They usually end around, Commissioner Dodd, don't they end around
11 or 12, I'm not sure.
It's a half a day, I'm sorry, yeah.
Now, would they be responsible for bringing trash cans?
I think they do. They bring their own stuff.
I think each vendor brings their own, usually.
Yeah, they're very good at taking their own, policing their
Yeah,
own.
Main Street's that Main Street Inc.'s pretty consistent with that.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that we considered is if we had someone who completed the application process and agreed to the rules of the utilization of the grounds, but for whatever they didn't abide by those rules, maybe they violated some of the things that we had in there, such as, using candle and getting wax all over the sidewalk that won't come out, or putting stakes in the ground or in the pavement or something like that. Did we want to add some language in there that says failure to abide by the agreement may result in denial for future request? Something along that line, because that way that gives us, they know in advance that if they're not complying with what they've agreed to, that doesn't necessarily mean that every year they're going to get to hold this event and leave. Like if they leave all their trash and don't clean it up or something like that. So we thought that maybe that might need to be added in there as well. Are you okay with that? Okay. And then on the back page,
We had thought about also on that of adding a deposit, but we didn't want to mess with the deposit and returning the deposit and all that sort of stuff. So if we could add that in there, I think that will seal that for the next event that group wants to have.
And before we go to the next page, perhaps, Mr. Mayor mentioned the application has number of people attending the activity. Estimated number of persons in attendance, should that line have a parentheses, X number may require additional restrooms?
where are you at?
I'm on the other form, the
Oh,
actual
I'm sorry.
application.
Okay.
The second page,
Second page about midways down.
I think if you put that in parentheses, you know,
Okay. So I'll add the extra facilities there. And then maybe I'll just put a note on the sanitary facilities and just put a note on application, and then that way it'll reference that. Okay. Okay, now to the back page of the rules packet. We felt like it would be better if we had the insurance, the certificate of insurance, to ensure that that was applied for in a timely manner, because it may take somebody longer than 2 weeks to get that back. So if we tell them 30 days notice, that way they apply timely and they're not waiting on their insurance coverage to make sure that that happens. So instead of within 14 days prior to the event, we moved that to 30 days. And we kicked around the idea so that somebody's not they're not making their application and then having to come back and mail in a check and doing it all. The way it's currently written right now is they make their application, and if they're approved, they send in a payment within 10 days. We thought that maybe if we submit their payment with their application, and if they're not approved, we anticipate more people will be approved than not. So if they submit their payment with their application, if they're not approved, the check will be mailed back to them. So we thought about doing that as opposed to having somebody to have to come back later and pay again, that it would just speed up the process for them, not having to make multiple trips to the courthouse. And so with your permission, I would change that as well. 30 days, it would be a 30-day in advance application instead of 60 days. So they'd make their application 30 days before their event, or sooner if they know sooner, and submit their payment at that time. And then if they're not approved, we would return the check to them. Is that okay? Okay.
I like that.
Thank you.
There's something in here that if they commit, they put in their fee, and then something happens and they can't do it. Is the fee refundable?
As long as it's before 7 days. If it's 7 days before the event, we did have language in there that it would not be refunded, because that would have prohibited somebody else from using the grounds.
Right.
And we would have already reserved the staff to take care of it. Because
that's fine, yeah.
Okay, so we say if they put their notice in for 30 days in advance, and 20 days before it or 10 days before the event, they realize they're not going to be able to have it for whatever reason, they could get their money back at that point. But once it gets to 7 days before, we felt like that was kind of a, that had already kicked somebody else out. So the big kicker that we're having the most trouble with is identifying what is a half day, what is a whole day, and the one event that we know for sure is multiple days. So Ben and I discussed this some about his employees and, being on the grounds. I looked at what the city of Murfreesboro and some of the other entities had considered a half a day. So originally I had considered that a half a day was 4 hours, but everybody's saying that your time includes setup, event, and takedown. So so we have to be mindful that if you're setting up for a large-scale event, that you may actually end up using it's not the day the event happens, it's the time you start setting up the event all the way down until it is takedown. So we didn't know if a half day should be 4 or 6 hours, with the whole day being 8 or 10, and then what we do how do we charge accordingly for an event like Jazz Fest that would take multiple days? I don't know of any other events we've ever had that have been multiple day events. I don't remember, but somebody else may remember. Jazz Fest is the one that comes to my mind, but the rest of them are really pretty much like a Saturday market's just during the day, and Friday Night Live is a one evening, and the International Folk Festival and those type things that come to town, those are just a day.
I would suggest 6 hours for a half a day.
Okay.
And then just say all day, because that could be from 7 o'clock until 12 that night.
Okay.
Instead of limiting, the whole day, they have to set their stage up for like Jazz Fest, and they play until 12 o'clock at night. So that's really more than 10.
So a half day, 6 hours, and then all day
And
is
then just say all day, and here's your rate for all day. You can start at 1 o'clock,
12:01 midnight?
1 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock at night.
Okay, all right.
One thing that that's a good idea, Mayor. One thing we was talking about, though, is like we've had stuff on Friday nights, and then Saturday morning, you got farmers market that comes in, and so stage and everything needs to be out of the way, and all their
That's
other
right.
stuff needs to be out of the way because they come in that morning. But I've seen them up here after we've left, a Jazz Fest or whatever, and it's 10 or 11, they start taking it down, and then me and my wife come back to farmers market, and I mean, it's totally clean. So I know how long it took them to build that stage, so it had to take them maybe 3 or 4 hours to take down that stage. So they were probably, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning getting done. And we don't want to penalize anybody for, getting it done and getting out of the way. We'll just make sure on those type days that they are notified that, okay, we do have farmers market the next morning or another event the next day or something.
Yeah, I think Rachel, she'll have a pretty good idea of keeping the calendar, and we'll be able to monitor, any back-to-back type events and just give them notification. And, okay, so Jazz Fest is on this, or Farmers Market's on this day. If you want on Friday night, your stuff has to be out of the way by at least 6 in the morning,
Is $150 enough to cover a 6-hour custodian?
Well, and that was one of the things that we looked at. So
That's a Ben question.
Ben and I talked about, depending on the person who's using it, are they going to need electric? Are they going to need water? So we calculated some numbers to try to, the short answer is we believe so. It depends on how many other things that they're going to need. But we also didn't want to make it so high that it would exclude some of these smaller events that, a nonprofit that needs it, they may need it for 6 hours and they may not. We don't want to take away from the from whatever their fundraising is for. And so we kind of felt like that 150 was a fair. We didn't want to go too high just because we didn't want to we didn't want anybody to feel excluded because of that. So we were trying to keep it at a nominal amount, just something to keep the bathroom, the toilet paper, paper towels cleaned, and if somebody needed to cut on electric or water or something like that for them.
Toilet paper might be high this year.
Yeah, well, I think this is a good start. And if we need to make any adjustments after going through it 1 year, we can make adjustments. But I think we need something to start with. And as far as I can see, this is a good start to go with. And if there's any adjustments, I think the commission can just make notes of it, and we'll make corrections in the future on this. Commissioner?
One little thing, proofreading on the second page, and I know this is just in the computer, it's not on print. So it says, any special requests that require assistance are not otherwise covered by these rules must be submitted separately in writing to the Rutherford County Mayor's office. No L-A-T-E-R. Add E-R.
Which packet are you with?
No later.
Three dots.
There's no late. Add ER to that.
No later. Oh, okay.
Hate to be picky, but it needs to be.
That's okay. We've read it 10 times and missed that all 10 times.
It's not chiseled in stone.
There's probably another one we didn't catch. I had one other statement we adjusted, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of this. Originally, when we sent this out the last time, we had put in there for the application to be approved by the Property Management Committee. And Nick was concerned, so that was taken off. Nick was concerned that based on when somebody's application came in and when they paid by the meeting schedule to get it approved by the property management, it would make it too tight. And he suggested that if, with this commission's permission, that the mayor could obviously make those decisions on what was appropriate, if that was okay to eliminate that. So that's the only other change that was made.
I think Rachel's going to be making these decisions.
I don't think it's, not yet. I got one more commissioner got a question right there.
I just got two small things here. Keep in mind also, we got here on the Rutherford County, the courthouse grounds information user rules. On the second page at the bottom in the bold print, it says the rules may be changed or modified by Rutherford County at any time without notice. On down also, there's a little small typo. Don't mean to show that, but where was it? Bear with me a second. Condition approved. It says may require user to abide. It says be other rules. That should be by, probably. Third line down at the bold letters.
By. Second page.
Yes, thank you, commissioners, for.
Okay, any other correction, discussion of it? If not, I entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve
Motion to approve, do I have a second?
both forms with Sonia's suggested edits.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That's a good job, good start. Okay, if not anything else on the agenda, any other business we need to discuss tonight? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Got a motion?
Second, I'd like to let Commissioner Cook that we all miss her.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank Sonia for the work she put in on the usage form.
Usage form, that was a good job.
All that. I know it took a lot more time than it probably appears that it
Right,
took.
right. Okay, meeting adjourned.